Hey everybody, back again, and if you saw the last video where I compared the 3 bows that I had made recently, then you would have seen I have 2 5-foot bows. One of them is fiberglass reinforced, and then I have a fiberglass reinforced 3-foot bow that has about 2-foot limb sections that are fiberglass reinforced. That thing ended up becoming a monster. So what we're going to do today is ditch the fiberglass. I'm out of fiberglass, but I do have 48 inches of PVC pipe left over from my last build. So this is going to become another bow. We're going to clone the design kind of that last bow we did, but without the fiberglass. So we're gonna have our limb sections, and then we're gonna have those really cool horse hoof bends. This is 7 inches on each side, so we'll end up with about a 15-inch limb and about a 6-inch handle in the center here. We've already done our handle. Now we're just gonna start working our limbs. I'm gonna leave these nice and stout. I'm gonna leave them at about a 1/2 inch. Instead of going flat. So just like that, nice and thick 1/2 inch limb over that 14 inches. I'm gonna lay it flat down on the ground. So just like that, we've got our nice back to the bow. And I've done this with all of them. If you look at them, you'll see they all have one definite back side of the bow. I'm gonna heat it up again, do the same thing here. But this time I'll kind of go a little more in depth on showing you guys how I got that shape that I had on the last bow, simply because that shape on the last bow, I had to do that out of necessity to get the string on because it was such a heavy weight. But with this one, I feel like it's going to still be a pretty heavy weight. Not anywhere near as heavy as that other one, but I do really like that design of those limbs. And if the weight's not high enough for me, I can always recurve it or flex it in before those flex back out. Just like I did on the other one, we're going to taper these, leaving them nice and thick in the center, but we want them pretty flat at the end. Now I've just gone ahead and heated up just up to that 3-inch mark. And I'm going to bend these forward and hold down flat on them so they don't open back up on me. Okay, so now we've got our curvature on both ends. Now we're going to heat it up down here in about this section just below where that curve starts, and we're going to bend it back. We're just going to take it from that section where we want our bend to start, and we're going to slowly, carefully start curving it back. You still want to keep that taper you had. And make sure you do your check after each heat. Same thing on this side. Just get that nice bend started. Make sure you don't collapse your walls. So now we've got our swept design on the ends of our bow. And I think I am probably I'll probably leave it like this. Go ahead and get my ends marked so I can show you guys how I cut these off to get the angle. And I'll cut in the nocks, and then we'll get a string on it, see how it looks, see if we want to adjust anything. Okay, so now we've got our nice winged edges on either side. There's obviously a little cleanup work to do, but I can do that with the file later. Let me go ahead and make a string for this and get it strung up just so we can take a look at what it looks like. Now I'm not sure if I've shown you guys how I make the bowstrings on these, so I'm going to show you guys that real quick. Super easy. You get your loop, put it over the end. That way you can see how big you want your loop. From there, you're going to tie a simple overhand knot. Just pull it through so you can create your first loop. Once your first loop's on there, you flip it over. Then you measure down 2 to 4 inches from the point you're going to knock it at. So that way, it's a tight string when it's strung. And this really is going to depend on how much pressure you want from this bow. On a shorter bow like this, I'm only going to go about 1.5 inches to 2 inches below that point there. That 5-foot hollow body recurve that I made, I needed 4 inches short on that to get it tight enough to shoot at 35 pounds. So judge carefully whether you want a tighter string or a looser string, and don't cut the string until you've got the string that you want, if that makes sense. So we're going to tie our second overhand knot. So that's not too bad, but I am going to actually put a little more bend in these just to give me a little bit of a shorter bow than this one. Okay, Now we're just gonna make the string a little shorter than what we had before, and then we'll have our strung bow. Super easy to adjust these strings if you don't cut it first, because all you have to do is undo your knot. Then you just have to remeasure your string, retie your loop, then you can string it back up. Go ahead and cut your tag ends off. You've got your bow. So this is our shape here that we've gone with. Same thing as that other one, but about a foot longer. And, oh wow. Ugh. I like that. It's not super duper heavy, not super duper light, and I can get it pulled back much further. So let's go throw a couple arrows with it, see how it does. So I'm here at about 10 yards, just to test fire this and see how it does, like we've been doing with all our bows. I went ahead and measured this, put a 50-pound weight on it just to see. Right at 50 pounds, it pulls to 24 inches. So about a 50-pound bow to get to 24 inches. I'm drawing 30-inch arrows on this like I do with all my bows. I'm not a professional bow maker, so I don't really care, because I'm not selling these to anybody. These are just for me. I don't really care exactly where what weight falls, as long as I can shoot the thing and it functions properly. So let's see how this one does. I feel like it's about a 60-pound draw to get to the full 28 to 30 inch. Bullseye! Hey! I like this little thing. So now I'm just going to go ahead and shoot it a couple times with the camera where it is now. So now I'm just going to show you guys the flex on these limbs so you can see how this bow bends.
Notice here how the hoof sections on the end don't actually bend, they just pull back on the limbs, causing the limbs themselves to bend.
See how those limbs do. 2 shots in my 10-inch box, and then one way out to the side. They're going pretty deep in. I'd say 10 to 12 inches of penetration. Step back 20 yards and see what I can do with 20 yards with this bow. Target's right in front of you. I'm gonna step back to 25, throw a few more, just so you guys can see how these fly. So I managed to do pretty good, got 2 in the box, 1 off to the side, and yeah, they're still going about 12 inches. I'm gonna go ahead and get this painted real quick, and then I'll be back once it's painted to show you guys how it looks. I'll get it strung, and then I'll show you guys how I do my wrap and my arrow rest on these bows. Doesn't have to be too fancy. I did use a stick to make these little motifs on either side. Look pretty cool. And there is our handle wrap and bolster section. So here's our painted bow. We've got some nice little stick motifs with blossoms on them from the trees here. I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys how I do these weaver wraps. They're very simple. It's literally just a knot on one side, pull it through, get it nice and tight, flip it over, put the right side through, tie that knot down nice and tight, and you're just going to do that all the way up the bow. Then once you get to the top of where you're going to have your handle, go ahead and tie a few more of those knots. But instead of moving up the bow when you do this, tie these knots in between the top 2 knots on either side, and then just under those a couple times. And that's going to give you a nice bolster at the top of your wrap to where you have a little jut out portion that your arrows can rest on. That way you don't have to tear your hand up with your fletching whenever you're shooting. And gives you a nice, consistent place to hold to shoot from. get your last knot nice and tight. Cut your ends off and leave about a 1/4 inch sticking out. Fluff that up a little bit on either side. And then you're gonna take your lighter, you're gonna just melt the end of that. And once it starts to turn into like a translucent plastic, you can press it into the rest of it. Then once you've got that knot all nice and heat molded so it stays in place, you've got your nice bundle and your nice rest. Now, when you're shooting arrows, the arrows striking the side here over and over will rough the PVC pipe up. The PVC is softer than the carbon arrows, the aluminum arrows, even wood arrows will tear this up over time. So get yourself some of these little Velcro strips. You'll notice there's the soft side and the hard side. You want to use the hard side. It's not going to mess up your arrows and it takes longer to break down, whereas the soft side will break down a lot faster. This felt stuff breaks down pretty quick. And what you're going to do is right above that bolster you created is where you're going to put these. Now you could just do 1 or 2, but I like to wrap it all the way around because doing so basically makes this to where any shooter can use it, and it makes it basically an ambidextrous bow. So it can be shot right or left-handed, and it's not going to rough up your bow. And just like that, you've got an awesome homemade 50 to 60 pound draw weight horse bow. Just to show you guys a couple more times how it looks to shoot. Got him. That does it for today's video. If you guys liked the video, you know what to do. Do the thing right there. If you want to check out how I made these bows, go to my archery playlist and scroll down until you find the PVC bow section. You will find them all in line with each other, including the PVC crossbow slingshot deal. So, until next time, God bless. Stay sharp out there. If you're looking for a custom sharp object, check out the Etsy store.